Welcome to Listen Up Homebuyers. I'm Victoria Ray Henderson. I'm an associate broker with the Buyer Brokerage in the Washington, D.C. area. And I am so happy that we finally coordinated our schedules. It's been a while. I've been trying to get you ladies on for a little bit, but I'm so happy that you're here and joining me. Please, everyone, meet TiAndra Houston and Caitlin Donahue. They are D.C. Metro designers with backgrounds in retail, commercial, and residential design. They have a penchant for creating unique spaces tailored to their clients' personalities and needs. And I am so glad that you're here because I have personal questions that I want to ask you about my rectangular shaped family room. But first, hi, thanks for joining me.
Hi, thank you so much for having us.
I'm so glad
So
you could be
excited.
here. Yeah. Yeah. So tell me about your what you guys do and how you help people create beautiful things in their homes.
Absolutely.
So we work with clients of all sorts. Right now, we're working with you, of course, to speak to specifically your clients and kind of some frequently asked questions that they have. You mentioned awkward spaces and just trying to think of innovative ways to make the spaces work for them. And so we put this presentation together to incorporate those questions and really try to illustrate how your clients can get that final result that they're looking for, that they can use their spaces in the best way possible, but make it work for them aesthetically, but definitely very functional.
Yeah,
So we want to go through that presentation and talk a bit about that.
that's great. Yeah, and Caitlin, you want to add anything?
I think TiAndra spoke beautifully to it. Basically, there's no weird inset, crevice, space, shape type of home that we can't help you figure out a better way to make it function and give your family what you need to live a better life.
Yeah, yeah. Before we dive into your presentation, just give me a quick, overview of basically, your background and why you became interested in this kind of a design because it is has its own unique flavor to it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, we both have retail interior design backgrounds and interior design backgrounds. But speaking for me personally, in that retail sense and that home residential sense, just that getting into the nitty gritty of how people live. We've all got the same basic needs, but where we are is different. And I just love kind of the psychology of getting into how people live and helping, make their lives a little easier, function a little better. I've got an arts background, so obviously I like to see people's personality really shine. And so I don't, trying to get away from the cookie cutter. Everybody's different. So putting a personal stamp on things is very important to me.
It really is helpful to be able to help people love the space and be comfortable in it. When I actually was just touring a home that was beautiful and it was basically staged, and I thought to myself, I was with my clients who have two young children. This is not the way a house usually looks ever when you have children and people and crafts and things like that. And so that's kind of why I wanted to talk to you because I love the fact that you're real.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Another point too, Caitlin and I, we actually met, we worked at IKEA for some time. And, when you think about working in, IKEA, for example, there's all sorts of solutions. And taking that mentality of creating solutions for different spaces that's very unique, like back to Caitlin's point, getting into the nitty gritties of what you need that space for, but also, like you said, very real, is important because it does look beautiful as you're staging a home and you're looking at these new houses and you're thinking about your life in those houses. You realize, okay, well, I can't necessarily have this white sofa. I have little kids. I have a husband who spills. And I have a dog and a cat, So you're thinking about those things. Like it looks beautifully, of course, to sell the place. But then once you, again, step back into reality, how can I make it my home and still have it beautiful, but make it so that it's functional for our family?
That's really the key. It's always a balance because I know I'm this way where I really like my house to look tidy, and I really like the white couch, and I love the hardwood floors that are just perfect and all of that. But when my kids were younger, I couldn't drive myself crazy trying to keep up with it. I can remember my husband saying, "Who do you think's coming in?" It's just us. But so I get that balance, and it's a hard one to get. But I love the IKEA background because I like going by those designers and watching them work with people, and it's really cool. So all right, so I love what you have here with the home facts. Ready to dive in and
Let's do it.
dang, yeah.
Okay, perfect. So our ooh, oh, there we go. So first here, one of the questions that you had asked us was specifically about decorating and defining spaces. And so we wanted to kind of break that question up and focus first on decorating a space and then get into how do you define a space. Um, so decorating a space, there's several steps that we like to take. So before you decorate a room, first you'll need to plan the program of the space. And the program is basically how you're going to utilize that space. What are the areas that you need to, the functionality of that space. A lot of times in design, you think about the program as you need a living room, you need a kitchen, you need, a bedroom. But in this instance, we're kind of diving it down a little bit more, narrowing the focus to functionality. So how do you want the space to function? Are there any specific activities that must be considered for the space? Will it be a playroom, a gathering space for family and friends? Will you need to designate a quiet space for reading, work, or schoolwork with the kids? So those are all questions that you need to think about.
Right.
Once you've nailed down the program of your family room, play with the space. So one way you can do this and have fun with it is take a sheet of paper, use some of your kids' construction paper, cut up squares, write out the program, and just move them around on a sheet of paper within that rectangle of what that space is, that living space is within that perimeter.
Yeah.
And then change it around, take pictures with your cell phone, take photos of it so that you can go back and kind of see, okay, well, maybe this layout worked, but this one didn't work so well. And that way you have a quick way to see what works, what doesn't work, and then nail it down from there.
Yeah.
So what I did here in this diagram that you see, I just used Google Slides very simply, created a program. We need a seating group, a quiet corner, a kids play space, and just kind of moved it around just within that program alone, and you get the same result. So whatever works, but it helps you kind of narrow down your focus and really think about what you need.
And help visualize. It can be overwhelming if you try and look at the whole big picture, but if you break it down into the essential needs, it can help you really focus.
I like what you said. I like the title of it, Get with the Program, because every family has a different program. We were all readers, both the kids and my husband and I. So we needed what you have here, a quiet corner. We don't have a TV in our living room because that would not jive with the way we live. I think we just kind of figured that out on our own. But anyway, I like that idea. You've got to have a plan for that space, or it could kind of go haywire and people are not on the same program.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's very cool. Very cool.
Yeah. Collaborating with your husband, you guys talking it through and seeing what you need and what you don't need really makes a difference. And then once you do that, once you've narrowed down your program, now it gets into how do you want the space to feel? You need to think about how you want to feel in the space, but also how you want others to feel in the space. And then, take a look at different images that you may have seen that conveys the feeling that you like for the space to have, specific furnishings. So for example, if you look at an image and you see a lounge chair that you like, what specifically about that lounge chair did you like? Is it the materiality of the wood, the warmth feeling that you get? Is it the clean lines, the upholstery that's a dark color that you think works better again with the two kids and the dog and the husband? And then, you don't have to decorate exactly what you see in precedent images. Again, you can get that from like a Pinterest, from social media, like an Instagram, even from magazines. You don't have to regurgitate exactly what you see in that image, but pull specific things, specific components out of that image. Maybe it's a color palette that you like about it. And then using Pinterest as a tool, you can actually save those images to Pinterest, to a specific board on the things that you like. And then you can go back to it in a way to kind of keep the look and the
Interesting.
overall visual holistic. You know, if you see other images, but it doesn't exactly jive with what you liked in some of the previous precedents that you look at, put it to the side. Maybe that can go in a different area, but that way it helps you to keep it holistic, and you don't feel like you're grabbing a bunch of different styles that may not necessarily work together. There is definitely a such thing as it being eclectic and being able to balance that. But in the meantime, as you're kind of working out and figuring out what your own design style is, you can do that in a way and help it come to fruition by taking these steps first.
So you use Pinterest as a tool, which I'm sure a lot of people do this. And one of my best friends from high school, she has Pinterest for using it exactly the way that you're talking about, but with baking, collecting all of the things that, you know, that she likes to, she's a great cook. And then also with, well, like she had projects where she went to a place and got a really cheap dresser and kind of fixed it up with this funky paint and bought new, but she had a whole theme board, and I enjoyed watching, you know. It's interesting. I don't really use Pinterest, but now that you're saying this, I could see exactly how it would work.
Yeah.
Because you're visually, you can, I mean, it's right there on your computer, you know? Yeah. Very cool.
Definitely. And you can use other sources. So Pinterest is great as a springboard. I know they've changed kind of their formatting in the recent years, but you can use other websites and images that you like from other websites and still pin it to Pinterest. You can create new pins in that way. So, you know, using that as a tool is a great way, like you said, to compile all of those images and all those, you know, pieces into one place so that you have a place to kind of go back to, and you can see it again holistically.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
Okay, so for the next question, or the second part of that first question, was how to define a space within a family room. And there's, you know, multiple ways that you can do that, and we wanted to kind of share a few of those ideas. So the first one here, on the left-hand side, this first image, the larger image, we have area rugs. So as you can see, you know, area rugs are a great way to define a space with different functions. For instance, you can use one large area rug for the entire space that can unify, or you can use two or more separate area rugs to help create a family entertainment center space, you know, on the side, or even a conversation space, or even a play area on another area. So as you can see in this image, they were able to do that very easily. It's a large space, of course, but just using those area rugs to kind of designate, this is what we're doing here. We're going to dine, we're going to sit and eat at this particular space, or maybe even, you know, you can craft at this table. And then in another area, you know, you can watch television, or again, read a book, depending on what it is that you want that space used for. This helps you visually to delineate through those spaces.
That's a great picture to show exactly what you're trying to explain, because, you know, coming up from the top view like that, obviously you can see how the couch backs up to the edge of that rug, and that creates that little rectangular box there. That's great. Yeah, very cool.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it actually goes to the next point of using furniture. You know, furniture placement is a great way to kind of define those spaces. You can see it as you said, in that the first image of the area rug. But to the right, we have that next image with a credenza on the back side of a sofa, designating those two areas. So you have the area that's by the fireplace, and then past that credenza, you know, there's something more going on that opposite side. You have that piece of furniture that's saying, okay, this space is kind of used for this. Here's another space as well. And the furniture, just by laying it out, makes it very clean and simple. Another way to do that.
There are so many homes now, because everybody likes to have the great room connected to the kitchen. And there's so many homes where I've walked in with my clients and they said, wow, this is a great space. It's so big. It's so great. And then as I'm listening and listening, they're like, yeah, how do I use this? How do I, because it is so large. It'll be the
Right.
whole entire back end of a house. And you're like, that's a lot.
Mhm.
That's, that's 30 feet of like, how do you fill it? Yeah.
Right.
So this is perfect, right? I mean, the rugs are a really easy way to make it defined.
Mhm.
Right, definitely. So another way that we included here is utilizing color. So in the image below with the kitchen, um, it's not a ton of color, but there still is color that's designating different areas that's defining these spaces. So you have that light pale blue within the kitchen area, designating this is the kitchen, this is where we cook, this is where, we prep. And then you have on the other side where the dining table is more of that white color, still that gray, but it's designating this is the dining area. So sometimes you see people try to use color. You can use it with paint. You can also use it with accessories and different colors and changing up the tone a bit to kind of keep it simple, but doing it in a way that doesn't just cut off one color to another, but allowing it to be seamless and cohesive is a great way to do that. So it's not jarring to the eye. It still allows your eye to visually move around the space, but still designate that we have a kitchen here, prep, cooking, etc. And then on the opposite side, we have the dining area, different colors, but they still work well within the space.
Together. Yeah.
Yeah. So our other example here is room dividers, which we actually use a bookcase as a room divider that you can use to help designate different spaces or delineate between those spaces. So you have the traditional room dividers, but other ways that you can kind of use the same idea is with like curtains and drapes.
Right.
You could also use planting, like faux plants or plants with low light, low loving light, if it's like in a basement or an area that doesn't receive a lot of light, to kind of still create that divider idea, but just in a different way. So there's multiple ways where you can kind of separate the spaces, but still add some uniqueness to the space. And this bookcase that where you're allowed to see through to the opposite side, visually designate these spaces, but then it's functional. You can store things, put books, vases, aesthetically pleasing tchotchkes and different things that you want, but it still gives you the idea of designating those spaces the way you want.
Yeah, I use ficus trees in my house for that. Because I have one behind me actually. Big, leafy, and I did that to divide a rectangular shaped room where there was living and dining. Yeah.
Oh, that's perfect.
Kind of block. Yeah.
And we personally love mixing in live plants in homes as well. It just makes it feel, bringing the outdoors in is something we love. We're plant moms, so.
Right. Yeah, that's wonderful.
So here, one of the questions, the next question that was asked was about, on a budget, how do you make a kitchen space the most out of a kitchen space in a colonial home or in a home in general? And there's so many different ways that you can do it. I put a note here, utilize vertical and horizontal surfaces. You can get a lot of use. Look up and use those areas.
I love the way you're hanging these pots. Some of my pots don't look that good, so I wouldn't want to hang them up in the middle of my kitchen.
Sure.
But I do have some nice ones, so I could see that would really work. Yeah, that's
definitely
cool.
Yeah. Utilizing the space. So anything from including additional shelving, and a lot of times just run the vertical space up your wall as far as you can reach, or as far as your spouse can reach, and use that space. You can use different depths of shelving. So for instance, I have here this image with spices. Put them at arm's reach. You can put that underneath, a cabinet against your backsplash, so that you can easily grab it. And then it's not using space within a cabinet that you could use for other things. You can use shelf risers as another way to help with that space so that you can stack dishes and things more easily. Like you said, using the ceiling as a surface to hang things. So your pots, hanging plants, again, like Caitlin said, we love to bring the outdoors in, but using fresh herbs, you know, as you're cooking and you have, you know, some cilantro at arm's length, you know, you can just easily cut off a sprig and use that to make your dishes even more wonderful. So using all of those vertical surfaces, and there's so many manufacturers that you can go to nowadays that have so many solutions in order to really use your space, even as small as it could possibly be, as small as a closet, but you have those other areas where you can, you know, behind a door perhaps, where you may have a surface to use.
Yeah, I was in a really small, under 1,000 square foot, one bedroom condominium in DuPont Circle. And when I walked into the door, talking about using the vertical space, walked in the front door, the guy who was living there was a reader, and he had above the height, so there were 12-foot ceilings, he had put in these beautiful bookshelves. And at the end of the hallway, he had a ladder that was on a roller.
Oh, I love that.
It was like Harry Potter. I mean, it was the coolest kind of touch, right? Because it had the really nice crown molding that was quite long, like maybe 4 inches, 5 inches long, and it just worked in this tiny space. But I thought, yeah, that's right, go up, because you certainly couldn't fill up. You know, the space was too small even to have bookshelves coming out from the wall. You know, so very, very interesting. I love it. Ah, the closet.
Yep. And it's a perfect segue from, you know, utilizing tiny spaces in a kitchen to utilizing your tiny closets.
Yeah.
I certainly sympathize with this common problem. My home is a 1949 Cape Cod.
Oh my goodness.
So, you know, it's a rail and a shelf.
Right.
And it's the same kind of concept. You just want to utilize every available square inch, and that's just maximize out your space, and to just break it down, you know, start from the ground, work your way up. And as you can see illustrated in these photos, they did that very well. So down below, think about your shoes, maybe about dirty laundry bins, maybe off-season clothing you can keep in clear storage bins, things that are a little more easier to grab, or you don't need to access them all the time. Then you can add a second row for shorter clothes. You can add a rail for dresses, suits, tops, things of that nature. There are shoe hanging options, belts, scarves, purses, all of that. And then shelving above. I personally have, for now, this current season, I have all my sweaters stacked and then clear dividers in between to keep them from toppling down. Container Store, for instance, has some great, just clear, simple things that keep things from toppling over. Bins, you could put bags, scarves, all sorts of things. There's just ways to, and then labeling. Labeling will help you organize and see everything in one fell swoop. I don't know if any of your listeners and watchers have seen any of the Marie Kondo TV show, but yes, we love it. Basically being able to see everything you have in one fell swoop, just being able to see everything in clear bins, that's going to help you utilize what you have in your closet. Because if you can't see it, you're probably not going to wear it and you're going to forget about it.
Right. No, it's true. And you know, what this is really all about, and one of the reasons that I was so excited to talk to you guys is it causes people to calm down. It's less stressful when you can go to your closet, open the doors like this and go, oh, there's that blue and white checkered shirt.
Absolutely.
You know, there are my shoes. I can actually put them on. They're not covered in dust bunnies, you know, you know, because it just makes sense and it's less stressful. You're going out the door, you just slide things on and boom, you're ready to go.
You're running late in the morning. You're trying to get your kids together. You're trying to get to work on time. You got to scrape the car, and you just want to be able to find your favorite sweater and throw it on and not have to worry about it.
And not have to sniff it to make sure it's okay.
Right.
Pull it out. I'm like, are we good? Okay.
All right, we're good. We're good to go. And if you have the luxury of having a bonus room or additional room, you can also think about converting that into your dream walk-in closet.
Yeah.
We have a spare, not a large room, but you know, we're in the process of decking it out with just floor to ceiling open shelves that we can kind of convert into our his and hers closet.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Space is a premium.
that is wonderful. Yeah, beautiful closets.
Absolutely.
Anything else you want to add?
Again, speaking of underutilized spaces, excuse me. The basement, this is an underutilized area for a lot of people. And I know many people have, rather than going into the cost of adding an addition, they're looking to their basements to add additional living space, function to their homes. And really, it's very feasible. It's just depends on what your scope and what your budget is, because the sky is the limit. And you see 3 different kind of levels of finish in these 3 photos we included here. For about $20,000, as long as you're not waterproofing, then you can certainly put down flooring, you can paint, you can put in some nice new doors, you could put in carpeting and maybe some new lighting. But if you're looking to add a bathroom, if you're looking to waterproof, maybe add a lovely little wet bar like we see, or make it finished, so it could be an Airbnb or an in-law suite, that could reach upwards of $100,000 very quickly, depending on what you're looking to do. But there are certainly some more cost-effective options for that, just to make them lighter and brighter. And maybe this becomes a good play space or craft area, or just additional like TV room, essentially.
I like this center picture because it shows the less expensive way. You're not putting up drywall. You're just painting everything white and making it look clean. And I've seen a lot of that. Yeah. And I know in the district, if you're going to do an Airbnb, or actually if you're going to do an apartment, you've got to have a ceiling height of 7 feet.
Right. And that's difficult for many homes.
Many homes.
And you got to think about boring out the floor and right. Exactly.
I have clients doing that right now, so it's not a cheap thing to do.
No. And then the next question, you had one where people were asking about whether it was a good idea or not to do painted tile, to paint over their tile if they were looking to extend the life of what they currently had.
Right.
And this certainly could be a good DIY. Again, you get what you pay for. It's an inexpensive, more quick kind of method to extending the life of your tile, but it's really more of an in-between if you're working towards eventually changing out to new tile. It's not a long-term solution, but I've definitely seen some examples that have lasted upwards of 2 years with some maintenance on some of these options. And you need to look at, is this a high traffic area? Is it a high humidity area? So entryways, bathrooms, you're going to get a little more wear and tear, and there's going to be a little more, chance of, if there's sitting water, that it could affect paint, for instance. But there are a lot of great, again, speaking to Pinterest, great DIY blogs that break down exactly what they did, and they troubleshooted and gone back a year later to tell you like what they could have done better. And a lot of it comes down to prep, to cleaning the floors ahead of time, to making sure you're sealing it well with plenty of coats of different sealers. Seems like oil-based seems to be a good option.
Yeah.
And, as long as you're okay with it maybe not being perfect, then it might just be good enough to at least get rid of that unsightly 90s, 80s, who knows, even older tile that's just eyesore and you can't handle it anymore. And another good option, if you don't want to get into painting, are these inexpensive peel and stick tiles that have started popping up. I've seen some good options on Amazon and big box retailers like Lowe's, for instance. There's one brand called Floor Pops that people have been using that just adds some pattern, a little something different. They feel more like an actual tile. You see that star print is very popular these days. And you can even grout on top of them just to make it look a little more authentic. And you get what you pay for. You could get like 5 boxes for about $100, And as long as, you know, you buy some extra like rug tape to help with the corners, things like that, it could be a really good DIY to just give your older bathroom a facelift, for instance, in the
I
meantime.
love, I love that look. Yeah,
It's
when I moved
adorable.
in, pardon me?
I think it's adorable.
It really is. When I moved into, my house was built in 1961,
Mhm.
and there was a green tile on the floor that was unknown to nature. I mean, literally, I tried everything. I was like, okay, I can make this work. Could not make it work. It was this weird, I don't even know how to describe it. That's when, but you know, I could have used the peel and stick. I ended up just going with a white floor eventually, having it all
Right.
redone. But the peel and stick would have really been great, you know, because they're just adorable.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And they're got current prints and patterns, what everybody's looking for these days. You can find
Yeah.
kind of Moroccan style or
Cool.
whatever you're looking for. And it's just something fun to spruce up the space
Right.
in the meantime. Yeah.
Right. You're saving up money for your
Right.
beautiful, you know,
Mhm.
bathroom to come.
Right.
Right.
Dream tile, handmade.
Exactly. To like Caitlin's point of the peel and stick or the paint until you can save up to do a little bit more. Just make sure you do the planning beforehand. You know, when you are trying to decorate your space, go through the process, go through it and think about what you really want. Because I hear from a friend, I'm helping her with her space, and she's always worried about making a change that she'll hate later.
Right.
And it's like, well, think about what you want. You know, think about really what you want first, plan it through, and you know, yeah, you don't have to rush through it. You're going to be living here for a while,
Right.
so take your time and really
It's a
do what you
marathon.
want.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah. How hands-on are you when you're doing this? I mean, are you doing a lot of the work yourself, or do you bring people in? I guess it depends on the skill level. Tell me about that.
It definitely depends on the skill level. I mean, Caitlin and I, we work together and we've done a lot of different types of DIY ourselves, even just with previous, like I said, the job that we had together. But yeah, when it comes to if there's something that you want done, and we're not experts in everything, of course, then you know you definitely want to bring in someone that can really lend to that expert voice. And I know you speak with contractors and you have all sorts of people that you work with that have that expert voice that can speak to that. But yeah, it's definitely good to collaborate with someone who has that more knowledge in certain areas. But yeah, we're definitely all hands on, all in.
That's wonderful. And you serve the entire greater Washington, D.C. area, up in the
Yeah.
Baltimore as well? Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, great. Anything you want to add?
Don't think so. I think, yeah.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Yeah.
Well, TiAndra Houston and Caitlin Donahue, they are DC Metro designers. I am so glad that you could join me today. It is fascinating to talk about this because this is what every first-time home buyer and really every buyer is talking about. How am I going to use this space and make it my own? So thank you so much for joining me for Listen Up Home Buyers. It's really been fun.
It
Thank
sure has.
you.
Thank you so much.